Exit PSU bank stocks, or would you stay invested? That is, dump PSU bank stocks and scoot or stay put. Joining us to debate that and decode this, Neeraj Diwan and Amisha Vora. Amisha, let me put that question first to you. A 9% rally on the 7% rally on the PSU bank index this week. Time to get out of PSU bank stocks?
Of course, the answer depends on what's the time perspective or time horizon of this question. But over a medium term, I would say no, not the time to get out of PSU banks at this juncture. They are close to or below one-time book. The credit costs, which are being the biggest issue for the sector, I think is going to bottom out soon in next 1 or 2 quarters, and the credit costs will rather come down. Similarly, I see, and that's a bit of hope, it's not number, that the kind of issues which are being faced or they are being surfaced, the policy reference or the structural changes to that will be the key driver to gradually re-rate the sector, apart from the fundamentals, which are also improving both for the economy and also in terms of asset quality for PSU bank. So I wouldn't say for a medium-term investments, it's time to quit.
Neeraj, would you agree with that? Stay put for a medium-term investment?
Yes, I would agree to that. I think one needs to stay invested in PSU banks. Of course, one needs to select which ones to stay invested in, but I think even as far as the restructured assets are concerned, the ferocity with which they were going up has actually come down now. And we saw that in the last quarter results also. So as far as the NPAs, gross NPAs are concerned, the way they were getting added has become less now. And plus, with the economy picking up, there will be more and more high-yielding loans like the SME, the retail segment, which can even improve the profitability of the bank going ahead. And as far as the problems are concerned, whether it's capital, whether it's the management of banks, the government is very well aware of this. And with whatever issues which have come right now regarding some of the scams or some of the problems, I think because of that, the reforms can be much faster. They even talk about having a separate CMD, separate chairman and managing director for the bank. So there'll be a lot of reforms that will happen. I think a lot of cleaning up has already happened and will follow now. It will be very good for the next 2-3 years for the bank when the economy is picking up and the banks are getting cleaned up, coming out of a very bad couple of years. So I think this is the time one needs to stay invested, and next couple of years should be very good as far as investment in banks is concerned, specifically PSU banks, because a lot of negatives are already priced in.
Let me play devil's advocate here. If you look at the price to book value of, let's say, the top 3 PSU banks, whether that's SBI, PNB or BOB, that's gone up considerably since the beginning of this year. But the bad news doesn't seem to end, Amisha. So whether it's the NPA cycle, which is as yet showing not that clear signs of bottoming out, or it's the corruption news flow, or it's the mismanagement news flow, none of this is ebbing. So while you say over 3 to 5 years, these are good buys, over the next year or so, would they be sells?
No. When I say medium term, I typically mean 1 to 1.5 years also. See, while some of these problems which you mentioned are true, but what has really changed is the ability of Indian corporates, A, to raise funds overseas markets through QIPs, which lightens their balance sheet, which some of these very high, heavily indebted companies have done, for example, GMR Jayaprakash, or the ability to sell some of their assets the way Unitech has done, sell their 5,000 crore worth of block of some buildings and in the commercial side, or the way things are shaping up, ability to sell some of their infrastructure assets or get partnership in that. Now all this, when it will happen in corporate India, the repercussions will definitely be onto the balance sheets of banks, where their borrowers' balance sheets will start getting repaired. So as we move forward, the intensity of assets going bad will certainly come down. Also last year, all these issues of policy paralysis and so on and so forth were compounded by 2 important things. One was the volatility in the currency market, which also got some of the SMEs and mid corporates unaware, and they also landed up in big trouble. So as we are seeing a slightly stable commodity currency regime also, and slightly improving, I would say, the GDP outlook, all these augurs well for banks' balance sheets.
So what looks most attractive to you, Amisha?
In the PSU segment?
Yes.
So we would say that, there are two ways to probably look at it. One is from the FI perspective, always the largest remains the darling. Also in terms of, I would say, the ROE, that gradually SBI's ROE from current level will expand. One of the reasons is that they had raised some capital, so the ROE was little subdued because of increased capital, as also their credit cost will gradually keep coming down. So we expect rising ROE, and at current price to book, we still think there is scope for improvement. The next best in the sector, we still are betting on Bank of Baroda. Though we are looking at there is going to be some top management change, but now we are more confident about most appropriate candidate to come. So we are saying otherwise than that, the second best that in the sector we are looking at is Bank of Baroda in the two large cap names that we were mentioning.
Okay, Neeraj, again, just to extend the point about the asset quality and the earnings quality. Surprisingly, the biggest rally has come in the two most volatile stocks, Union Bank and Indian Bank this week. Does that worry you? Because it's fine to see rally in index stocks, but in the rank underperformers or stock or banks which had history of volatile earnings, we have seen the biggest rally. Would that worry you?
Actually, stock specific, if you go, definitely that is a cause of worry. We don't really like banks which have these volatile earnings where you get, some surprises coming anytime. 2 quarters are good, then 1 quarter can have a surprise for you. So I think that's why it's very important to select which banks you want to invest in. That's what I said in the beginning also. Like suppose, there are banks like a Canara Bank. This bank has grown in the last 3-4 years at 20%, or it's above the bank average that you've seen in the PSU banking, but they've still been able to maintain their gross NPA at 2% or below that, and even the net NPAs are quite low at 1.5, 1.7%. So if you have a good asset quality in spite of having the growth, and most of the banks which are aware, which are having the provision coverage ratio going up, like even Canara Bank for that matter, will have the provision coverage ratio going up to 40% this year. So you have to see specific things. Everyone is aware of the problems. Everyone knows that there has to be decent provision coverage ratio. If a bank has grown and has been able to maintain and has been steady there, I think you have to be selective as far as PSU banks also concerned. And you can't really put everyone in one basket, and you have to be selective there.
All right, so very quickly, if you can in 10 seconds each tell us stocks that you would stay away from, given that you've already listed stocks that you like. Besides Syndicate Bank, Neeraj, Amisha, what would you stay away from in the PSU bank space? Neeraj, you go first.
Actually, see, there's so many PSU banks, it's difficult to name everything that you stay away from. But I can give you the top picks that we have. We have stocks like Canara Bank, we have stocks like Bank of Baroda, which we feel are among the larger banks. Even the smaller banks, they're a very good bank, like a Vijaya Bank for that matter. If you see Vijaya Bank, that is among the best asset quality. The growth there is also 20%, and the management is saying they'll grow by 20% loan growth this year also. So it's better to take your picks rather than, selective out of a big list, the number of stocks which you might like to keep in the portfolio.
Amisha, you've already told us you like the biggest one, the best. Any stocks or any PSU bank stocks that you would stay away from?
Stocks like central banks, stocks like maybe, our opinions are slightly different. So I would like to not answer this question at this juncture. But I would say that the PSU bank still has a lot of challenges also in terms of A, capital raising, B, in terms of their pension provisioning, and of course C, in terms of the talent that they will need, as a big amount of talent pool is retiring. So these are 3 issues that they have to face. And also let me qualify that the real trigger in this sector will not be just the credit growth or slightly improving asset quality. But the real trigger, if at all, could be for re-rating some structural changes or policy initiatives which can unshackle the issues. Like PSU chairmans come for 1.5 years, 2 years. You know, there's been talk for a very long time that
Amit
they
Shah,
should have a reasonable tenure.
So, Amit Shah, how much of the additional money into banks would you put into PSU versus private sector?
So the typical debate always has been, why not put all money in private sector, because there is continuity, there is growth, they are much better placed to target the upcoming growth in the economy. That is where we differ. We say yes, the private sector banks are structurally good stories, but at current juncture and valuation,
okay,
PSUs should be part of it.
All right, point taken. Thank you, Amisha. Neeraj, stay right with us. We'll come back to you to talk about other stocks. But before that, let's go across to our reporter, Mubina, who's tracking that story about Jignesh Shah getting bail. Mubina Kapasi joining us with more details now. Mubina, what do you know?
At 111 days in custody, and Jignesh Shah has finally...
All right,
we're having some trouble.
Yes,
111 days, at least that corrects me.
More than 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, all right. We'll try and connect back to Mubina in just a bit. But we also do want to take a tour of, what stocks to buy or sell today for tomorrow?
Yeah,
for Monday, rather.
For Monday, we've got Vishal Malkan joining us. Vishal, what do you have? BTSP? Or is it the other way?
No, I would go for buy, of course. Okay. I would like to go for buy on Adani Enterprise with a stop of 495 for targets of 525. Second would be an Yes Bank with a stop loss of 575 for targets of 610. And the third stock would be Century Textile with a stop loss of 590 for targets of 620 for tomorrow.
All right, Vishal, thanks very much. We're going to get back to our guests, Amisha, Neeraj, and also joining us on the show, we've got Siddharth Bhamre. Siddharth, first let's talk to you about where we're going to close the week. It does look like we will close above 7,900. What do you make of how far the Nifty has traversed this week? Not much in terms of distance, but definitely in terms of records. Siddharth? Okay, I give up. Technology is not in my favor. Why don't one of you gentlemen try?
Siddharth, is my voice reaching you?
अभी वो बाइट रिकॉर्ड करने का है.
Okay, looks like there's some problem with that link. So let's just get back to our other experts about some individual stocks which have done well in trade. Amisha, oil and gas, how would you approach, say, stocks like BPCL and HPCL? Today, of course, they've corrected a bit, but there's been tremendous re-rating that we have seen in these stocks.
Absolutely. I think after a very, very long time, we have come to a point where it appears that diesel subsidy is going. And if one wants to hazard a little more guess that it is at a juncture where the pioneers of decontrol of petrol and diesel are ruling, as also they have clear majority unlike last time, then this is probably the opportune time where one has to take a further plunge and declare the diesel as decontrolled. For some more time, it may not create any major issues, and gradually the system will get used to that. That will be a very crucial factor. Beyond that, of course, one is looking at the changes in regime for gas pricing, which does not affect BPCL, HPCL directly, more to ONGC, but that also for a sector is going to be very positive. So sector which was long ignored for years, I think is set to be in the limelight. Further, there could be some consolidation phase because the stocks have run up a bit, but beyond that, I still see the sector in good favor.
Neeraj, would you share that optimism, and what would be your pecking order in terms of oil and gas stocks?
Ali, actually, I also share the same view. I think some consolidation needs to happen at these levels. Though, whatever has happened as far as reforms are concerned and the diesel deregulation just around the corner, I think it's very positive, and it will show in the profitability of all these oil marketing companies this year, next year, and there will be a growth in the profitability. So it will be actually very good. But one needs to do some catching up because the stocks have really moved a lot. And now one needs to really hear what the government view is regarding the next set of reforms which can happen in oil and gas sector. So I think you get some whimp of that. I think there can be a further rally also in these stocks. But I think at the current juncture, at whatever we know, whatever is fairly known, I think the stocks are now fairly valued, and some consolidation needs to happen at these levels. But I think leaving that aside, I think the upstream companies like ONGC, which do have some challenges, but I think they still look good at these levels. So these kind of companies, I think, can be looked at after the run-up, which has already happened in oil marketing companies.
Well, Siddharth, I think we've got Siddharth back, so let me try my luck. Siddharth, if you can hear me. Earlier this week, it looked like 8,000 was within striking distance, but how does it look now for the series?
Good afternoon, Senthil. Nothing different than what you just mentioned. And more than Nifty, we are concentrating what's happening in Bank Nifty. Between 15,000 and 15,600, 700 levels, we have seen huge accumulation of long position in Bank Nifty index. And 15,600 to 15,700, this 100 points had a lot of multiple resistance points for this underlying. And today, despite being last day of the week, when you would generally expect some long traders to book profit, we are seeing that market is stable with positive bias, with not so much of support from global cues, and Bank Nifty on verge of breakout with good volumes. And the kind of weightage banking sector has on Nifty, I think it would have a rub-off effect on Nifty as well. So I won't stick to a figure, but definitely we are not shorting this market, and we are looking further upsides in this expiry.
Okay, one of the stocks I wanted to put to all three of you, a financial stock that had a bad week, even though its peer group has done well, is HDFC. That's had a fairly rough week, Amisha. What would you attribute that to, and really how are you viewing HDFC at this point in time? Though, much of the short-term gain has been on account of that news of a merger with HDFC Bank, purely speculative. How would you look at HDFC here on?
I would have probably, if you ask me, missed if there are any fundamental changes which have occurred, which merits closer look in terms of impacting their profitability or rating or cost of funds. But I don't think any of those things have happened in terms of any RBI changes or anything. So I would still think that there was in the week before, there was a very strong run-up, and there could have been a slight subdued performance in this week because of that. But otherwise, fundamentally, if you ask me, they are also on a reasonably steadier wicket, except that the competition in the segment will is gradually hotting up, and that's what has been the phenomena for a while.
Quick views, Neeraj, you got 10 seconds to just quickly talk us through HDFC, because we also want to wrap up markets as we head towards close.
See, though I like HDFC as a long-term bet, but I think because of the competition which is coming from private sector or even from other smaller, bank-related housing finance companies, I think the competition is really huge, and those companies are eating up to some extent to the market share. So I think I would rather go for other housing finance companies if I have to play the housing finance market as such.
All right, fine. 30 seconds to go before markets end. We're going to close well above 7,900 for the Nifty, 26,400 for the Sensex. That's about a third of 1% in terms of gains on both the frontline indices. It's been a muted but a positive Friday, so to speak. On top of the heap today are tech stocks, which made a big comeback. So Tech Mahindra leading the Nifty by almost 3.5% in gains. HCL Tech up 2.5%. Infosys up 1.4%. TCS also in the green by 1.2%. And Wipro also adding on gains in trade today. Then, of course, you've got PSU banks that did very, very well. So SBI up 2.3%, Bank of Baroda 2%, PNB up 2%, and some participation from private sector banks. So HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Axis, IndusInd, they were all in the green today. Those are the broad sectors that did well. On the losing side, HDFC went home with 2% in terms of losses. Coal India 2% today, down. BPCL down 2%, and then you had bits and pieces of stocks from across the board. So you had some pharma stocks that didn't do very well today. Dr. Reddy's, Sun, they were both ending the day in the red. You had Hero Moto in the auto pack that ended down 1%. Bharti Airtel down 1.5%, and DLF ending the day 1.2% lower. Hindustan Unilever, ITC, and other FMCG stocks also having a weak day, but that has been the trend of this week. Kanuj?
Indeed, Menaka. In the mid-cap space, what was interesting was that you had two clear moves. One was in mid-cap pharma again. So Alembic was up 16%. Nectar Life Sciences, we spoke to the management. They were very bullish. That stock was up 15%. And Copran was up about 12% or so. On the other hand, you had mid-cap infrastructure, and that's the pocket where a lot of traders are normally positioned in. That had losses today. So Lanco Infratech, GMR Infra, IRB Infra, JP Associates, JP Power, India Bulls Power, all these stocks were down quite a bit. So that's one space to watch out for. Apart from that, sugar also did quite well today. So Bajaj Hindustan was up about 5%. Not materially positive the news that we had, but the market right now is looking at everything as glass half full. So that's one stock which did quite well. And the other stock that looked quite good was Suzlon, that was up about 4.5%, or actually close to circuit. So that stock also did quite well in trade. Overall volumes also quite decent, quite big actually. 15,000 crores is what we had in the cash market, and overall volumes of about 3.5 lakh crores is what we had in today's trade. So that's the
worth casting an eye on some of the top gainers of the week, so to speak, since we're on Friday afternoon. Cipla going home with 11% in terms of gains. That's quite a bit of a rise, for a large cap stock like that. BPCL up 10%. PNB up about 8% in trade today. Kotak Mahindra Bank about 8%. Tech Mahindra 7% and SBI 7%. So those are some of the 5 or 6 top gainers for the week. Top losers for the week, HDFC, we've discussed that, down 7%. ITC down about 4%. Hindustan Unilever down 1.5%. And TCS is also going to end the week with about 1.5% in terms of losses, right?
Indeed.
Piddling, Menaka. Look at the Manappuram General Finance, 33%. Ahmed Nagar Forging, 25%. PC Jewellers, 22%. Jyoti Laboratories, 18%. Marks and Pharma down today, but 14.5% for the week. PTC India Financial, 13.9%.
Size, my dear friend, size. 30% of Manappuram and 4% of ITC. Okay. All right, then. That's how the week ended for us this week.
Yeah, so let me go back to Siddharth then. Siddharth, I know you're beaming right now because your clients would have made a lot of money. Your call was absolutely right on expiry day about how this series will shape out. But any early indications for the current series, or for the next series rather?
Yeah, Anuj, before that, I would like to comment something on HDFC. HDFC, we have seen huge accumulation of positions on 11th, 12th, I'm going to say just 5-6 trading sessions before. And after that, even in yesterday's trading session, we have seen 15% rise in open interest. Now I understand, there's a lot of competition from other NBFCs, but whatever development is happening in HDFC Limited, such significant rise in open interest has nothing to do with competition. I think there is something brewing over here. Now one can talk whether it is related to merger or anything else. I am not aware of that, but it is nothing to do with competition. That's what I can say. Coming back to your question, Anuj, we are seeing that despite so much of built up in option segment, and especially in puts, you're tracking that closely, Anuj, that 77, 78, 7900 puts are showing huge accumulation of open interest. Initially it was on the short side and now it is on the long side also, but put call ratio is not significantly jumping. Generally we start seeing the put call ratio of next series after quite some time, but when we saw a couple of days back, we are seeing that FIs are accumulating 8,200, 8,300 call options of September series, which is again an encouraging sign. Generally you see that whenever this sort of build up happens, market tend to move towards that direction. So we are still not very bearish. Apart from low IVs and significant decline in crude oil prices, which is risk to our view, we are not expecting this market to show meaningful correction.
From here onwards, Amisha, if you had to pick sectors that you think will lead the markets forward and higher, if that's your view of where the markets are going to head, then what would those key 2 or 3 sectors be where we'll see the maximum gains?
I think it would still be probably within oil and gas, ONGC, and within banking, PSU Bank, which will help go up the markets further, because that is where in the month of September there could be some further policy clarifications and they have reasonably good weightage also. So I would say these 2 sectors would rather help.
Neeraj?
Yeah, I think financial sector is one which should be the top, whether it's a PSU banks, housing finance companies. I think this is one which should drive the market going ahead. And then oil and gas, of course, I think upstream companies will also start contributing now. I think these 2 sectors should contribute, and selectively PSU companies, there will be more stock specific PSU companies which should do well going ahead.
For instance?
Yeah, there's companies like BEL, which is one of the companies under our coverage. Then, there's Engineers India, which the results were not good, but we were very happy to see the kind of order book growth that is there. So these are the kind of companies stock specific which can be looked at.
Neeraj, what would you do with mid-cap auto ancillaries? Had a pretty good week.
Yeah, actually, we have been bullish and we have been recommending a lot of auto ancillaries like Ahmednagar Forging, which you mentioned. We had actually identified it at 150 when we took out a buy report. So I think this can continue doing well because they actually are getting good capacity utilization, and even more and more new customers are getting added. I think Motherson Sumi, for that matter, also is actually doing quite well. So I think some of these mid-cap auto ancillary companies, which you are seeing the growth, where capex is almost over, or which there are no more capex is lined up for the near future, they can actually reap the benefits of whatever capex has been done in the last couple of years. So I think they have a lot of potential going ahead.
All right, Amisha, a word on any of these mid-cap pharma names if you're tracking. Big re-rating is on in some of the names like Copran and a couple of others, Nectar Life Sciences, Alembic. Marksans also rallied quite a bit, but today corrected. Any names that stand out for you?
Not that any of these stocks are under active coverage, but we do have met a couple of managements out of this or spoken to them. And I would say that Alembic and Marksans both in terms of numbers, fundamental numbers, and would be delivering very good numbers. The rest I haven't spoken or seen rather.
Okay, Siddharth, United Spirits ended in the green today, and in the morning it shed quite a bit of open interest, then some open interest was added, and in last hour again it got cut. So two-part question, what happened today and what do you expect from now up until September 19th?
Anuj, just a couple of months back or less than that, we all were discussing so much about open offer and built up happening in both the series, arbitrage available or not. There's a lot of open interest still standing, and most of the open interest is on the shorter side, which got rolled over after open offer. So anticipating that, because stock is moving out of FNO, so there would be more of unwinding and stock would have downward pressure. I think that won't be a right way of assessing this. There are a lot of short positions. So if that is the case, I believe 23 to 23.50 plus minus 50 points here and there is a good support zone for this stock. Unless and until this stock doesn't move below those levels, I am not expecting this stock to go significantly down from current levels. At the same time, I would say that having a view that because there would be an unwinding and there would be significant selling pressure, that again itself is wrong, because people would just allow it to expire rather than completely reduce the open interest. So don't short in an anticipation that this stock is moving out of FNO segment. That's the advice. We are not suggesting going long here, but not short. Shorting is something which we are strictly saying avoid.
All right, Siddharth, thanks a lot for joining us. Neeraj, thanks to you as well. And Amisha, thanks a lot for taking time out. Have a good weekend.
All right, we're going to take a quick break on that. When we come back on the other side.
GDP, emerging markets, is about 50%. It's over 50%.
And it's growing.
And growing fast. It's also all the growth. It's the countries without the debt. It's got, much more potential for rapid expansion in lots of different segments. It's the major source of industrial capacity. Consumption is going to be huge.
Speaking to market veteran Ramesh Damani, that's economist Jerome Booth, and he says that investing in emerging markets should be the central concern for all investors worldwide. We'll get you an excerpt of that expert one-on-one conversation on the other side.